We're back on the early morning agriculture roundup here on 580 WIBW. Greg Akagi with you this morning. And right now it's time for the Kansas Livestock Scene. And joining us, as always, Scarlett Hagins, Vice President of Communications with the Kansas Livestock Association. Scarlett, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Greg. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get right to it. And, you know, in the age of the COVID-19 pandemic, ag organizations, meetings, you name it, they've either been canceled, postponed, or condensed. And unfortunately, a decision has been made with concerns to the upcoming KLA convention in December.
That's right, Greg. Just like you said, everybody is making some changes on their meetings, but we want our members to know that we are moving forward with plans for our convention. Now, like you said, you know, a lot of meetings have been condensed. KLA is going to do the same thing. We are going to condense our convention to one day, December 3rd. It will be on that Thursday, December 3rd. And essentially, we're going to focus on developing our policy that, of course, guides our association for the next 12 months following our convention. And that's really important to our association, to our members, that we essentially get our business done. And so that's what we're going to focus on, is that policy development arm. We are going to have our council and committee meetings on that day, followed by our membership and business meeting. We will potentially have some speakers, hopefully plan to hear from Randy Block and some others, but it will be a one-day format, kind of get in, get our business done, and get out. Due to a lot of restrictions being placed on hotels for spacing, social distancing purposes, things like that, it just doesn't lend itself for us to have our normal large meal functions or our normal trade show. And so, again, planning for one day, December 3rd. Our hotel information, if members do want to come in, if they need to come in that Wednesday night, they can still obviously book hotel rooms there with the Hyatt. And then we have some other hotels normally that we use, and we're using those again. So we'll have all that information on our website, kla.org. For them to find and book the room if they do want to or need to come in on Wednesday night. So we will be getting more information out there, of course, as things are becoming finalized. We're still finalizing the schedule and some things. So members can look for registration information, a finalized schedule to come in the coming weeks. And we will certainly keep them up to date on anything convention related as things progress.
And of course, we should add this little caveat, that's all subject to change as well.
Sure. You know, we're looking at December, of course, and these days, sometimes things change within a 24-hour time period. So nothing for sure is in concrete, but this is our plan as of right now. And that's how we're going to move forward unless something drastic changes.
Scarlett Hagins with the Kansas Livestock Association is our guest on the Kansas Livestock Scene here on 580 WIBW. Well, you also had your second KLA K-State Field Day as well, and cover crops and the market were a couple of the highlights.
That's right, Greg. We had our second and final field day in the 2020 series this week. It was August 18th at G3 Cattle Company. They're near Uniontown, and as you and I were discussing a little bit before this, it's been really nice to get out and see some of our members in person. We appreciate those that were able to attend both of our field days, one last week and one this week. This one at Uniontown, we had a little over 100 farmers and ranchers there at the field day on G3 Cattle Company's place. The field day program really focused, like you said, on cover crops. That's something that the George family, who owns G3, they utilize as a grazing option during the winter months. It helps them save on feed, supplemental feed for their cow herd. And so we heard a lot about cover crops and how they implement that on their operation. K-State Extension Specialist Jamie Lynn Farney talked about kind of the research behind cover crops, and she's done a lot of research on that and talked a little bit about some crops that farmers or ranchers should look at that maybe provide the most protein, the highest quality forage in these cover crop situations. So it was a really great discussion with Jamie Lynn and then Gail George and Jared Pollock, both of G3. Then, like you said, the market, co-bank manager of Knowledge Exchange, Tanner Imke, kind of gave a market outlook, went through, what has happened over the past several months due to the pandemic, and talked about, which I thought was some encouraging news, that expectations are the U.S. will see some economic growth in the third quarter, which I think is good news for the economy. He did explain that, most likely a lot of that is due to pent-up demand for consumers being stuck at home. People are wanting to get out, spend some money at whatever the case may be, shopping or eating out where they can. And so that may be what's spurring our third quarter growth. One thing that he did mention, which I think probably we've heard before, is that some of the consumer habits that were developed during the pandemic are most likely going to stick around for a while. A lot more online ordering, which is going to impact some local economies for sure. We also know that, local restaurants have been impacted, and various local businesses, unfortunately, have had shut down for a while, or some of them have even closed permanently. And we sure hate to see that. And we hope that more survive this than some expect. But we do know that some consumer behavior has changed, and some of that may be permanent. And so one thing I would say along the field day lines is, if folks were not able to attend field days, we did record each educational session, both from the August 13th and August 18th field days. And those videos are posted on our website, kla.org. Just go to events and meetings and click on the field days, and you can watch all in their entirety, each one of those educational sessions. We wanted to make that available to folks because we knew that, of course, in the times that we're in, that not everybody was going to be able to attend, but we wanted you to still get the benefit of the educational sessions.
Scarlett, as we move on, of course, in the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been more emphasis, or I guess more of a spotlight put on small meat processors. And right now, though, they have an opportunity to secure some grants.
They do, Greg. This was some good news that we found out really this week, I think, is when they became open. But again, like you said, it was in response to the pandemic, and the Strengthening People and Revitalizing Kansas Task Force has approved more than $130 million in relief funding for economic development throughout Kansas. And these are federally provided dollars, and they're being awarded, like you said, in the form of grants to eligible businesses through the Kansas Department of Commerce. But one I really want to point out here is one through the Securing Local Food Systems Grant Program. And it was created to support things like small meat processing facilities, food processors, food banks, local direct-to-consumer producer and retail outlets, really to address supply chain disruptions as a result of the pandemic. And the program is based on the need to increase capacity of local food systems. So specifically, if you're a small meat processor, you can apply for a grant to fund things like expansion of your cold storage, equipment upgrades, and updates or expansion of your processing areas and things like that. So we really think this is a benefit to small meat processors. KLA made clear the need for assisting these folks in discussions earlier this year with the Kansas Department of Agriculture. And this is kind of the fruition of those discussions. So again, I think it's a positive for these small meat processors. Grant applications for this program should be made for, of course, capacity-related improvements since March 1st, 2020 through December 30th of 2020. So if you have made improvements or are looking to make improvements, this grant may be for you. I would encourage those that want specific eligibility requirements or for to apply online, go to the kansascommerce.gov webpage, and they have all the information. There's other grants available, so check out all of them if you can, or if you're interested to see if you might fit for one, if maybe this specifically doesn't fit your business.
Scarlett Hagins with the Kansas Livestock Association, our guest on the Kansas Livestock Scene here on 580 WIBW. Well, if you live in the Wichita area or happen to drive in the Wichita metro area, you've been seeing some billboards, Scarlett, that share the beef message.
That's exactly right, Greg. The Kansas Beef Council recently put up some billboards in the Wichita metro area featuring the checkoff-funded Nicely Done Beef campaign. So consumers are encountering messages highlighting beef's, of course, unbeatable taste and its status as what we consider the king of proteins, of course, as they travel throughout Wichita. And this billboard outreach is bolstered, again, by a targeted digital strategy that's leveraging some checkoff dollars, again, targeting that Nicely Done Beef campaign, but it's also being used, the audio advertisements are being used on Spotify. And the reason they targeted Spotify is it's a streaming radio station that is popular with millennials and Generation Z consumers, and those are kind of our big target areas, target group of folks. And so in addition to the billboards, folks are also hearing audio advertisements on Spotify, of course, promoting that Nicely Done Beef campaign message. And this is really just one part of the demand building strategy that's carried out every day by the Kansas Beef Council. That also includes various digital ads, educating health professionals, and networking with key culinary influencers across the state and the Kansas City metro area.
We got about a minute left, Scarlett, but as we wrap up, one of the things the Beef Checkoff has done is started to engage more and more with chefs.
That's right. That is a key part that they play. And recently they sponsored an educational session in the American Culinary Federation National Convention. It went virtual and was held early in August. And the Checkoff sponsored an educational seminar titled Navigating the Beef Supply Chain and the New Food Service Environment. And so really just talked about what's happened this spring with the beef supply chain, and then what steps have been taken moving forward to prevent that from happening again. And then one of the chefs gave some great examples of how he used some alternate beef cuts when ones that he typically used were not available at the time. So just another great group of folks that we can get through the beef message.
Scarlett, we're out of time, but as always, great to talk to you. Have a great weekend.
You too, Greg.
That's Scarlett Hagins with the Kansas Livestock Association, our guest on the Kansas Livestock Scene here on 580 WIBW.